So I thought I'd start today with some family photos. This image was taken in Holland in the late 70s. I'm on the left playing the accordion. All of the photos that I have with my entire family together come from these kinds of studios. And I've always felt that these images could really kind of stand in for an artist statement because they just have a lot of the qualities and the elements that I look for when I'm making my work. And despite being in all of these photographs, there's something about them to me that feels a little mass-produced. And this doesn't have anything to do with my family specifically. We were just following conventions, where we, in some sense, we're almost like actors playing a part. We wore the same clothes, stood in front of the same backgrounds, and posed in the same ways as any other family that kind of came through these studios. But there's still something that authentic about the images to me. They have this kind of authenticity that comes from their awkwardness. And I'm interested in the place in the image where the image starts to fall apart, the little cracks where something unique will find its way in, despite the formula, and bring out some of the personality, such as the crooked bookshelf in my family's study. So in my work, I'm always looking for that place, that thing, the space in between where nothing quite fits, and that element that can turn something that's kind of everyday and mundane into something a little bit more evocative. This is a series called Love Equals Love, which is a series of collages that I made with puzzle pieces. One day, for kind of no reason at all, I was sitting on a train, and the thought popped into my head that a puzzle piece probably isn't actually unique. And I liked the idea that something that you thought could fit or would only fit in one place might actually be interchangeable. And what kind of got me to that place was thinking that a manufacturer probably wouldn't alternate the die that they used to cut out individual puzzles in order to save a little bit of money. So they would just run out all the images on the press and just stamp them out as they, with the die, making all of the puzzle pieces actually interchangeable. So I took flowers and skies out of around 60 puzzles and combined them to form these surreal landscapes. At one point, I had probably over 30,000 puzzle pieces floating around my studio, and I can assure you, if I had to do this again, I would probably have some sort of way to organize them that makes sense. So again, with a lot of my work, I'll create rules or guidelines for myself. I find it's very helpful for me to have some sort of structure when I'm working. It gives me a starting place, and then it kind of confines me in a way that where I feel like interesting things will happen. So in this case, I took flowers and skies out of all the puzzles, all 60 of the puzzles, and would only use a piece within its original place in the puzzle. So this created an enormous challenge because it set up a bunch of limitations for me. That I could only use this piece that's in the corner if it had a flower on it, or if it had a piece of sky. But I often find that with those restrictions come creative opportunities. And all of the images in this series are a direct result of those limitations. Because I wouldn't have made any of these choices had I not been restricted by what was actually available in that area with that specific puzzle piece. So in most of my work, I'm always looking for things that are familiar, things that are cliched and overlooked, and objects that have some sort of kind of outward meaning pushed on them. They become symbolic of something. And I'll try to use that in a way to bring some sort of emotional response out from the viewer. This is a series called Bears, and it's photographs of teddy bears that I turned inside out and then restuffed. So I didn't actually do anything to the teddy bears other than turn them inside out, restuff them, pose them, and then photograph them. So however they were manufactured to look a certain way on the outside determines how their outward appearance now that they're inside out. So their fasteners will become eyes, and their seams will become scars. If the bear had been holding a heart, for example, it would become an amputee. If any of you ever wondered what Winnie the Pooh looks like inside out, there he is. But what interests me about the inside-out teddy bears is that they kind of have this presence that is completely counter to all the associations that you think of when you think of teddy bears. And they kind of rest in this space in between, where they seem to have a history and a past. And they bring out a set of kind of complicated, a complicated emotional response in the viewer, where they're hideous, but they're still kind of cute. They're sad, but they're still happy. But it's not either or, it's both at the same time. This bear, when I bought it, the cashier at the toy store offered me toy insurance. And I didn't buy it because I just assumed that it would not cover what was about to happen to this bear. Okay. But so as I was working on the bears, I started to think, are there other objects that we might look to offer us comfort? Is there the adult equivalent to a teddy bear? And at the same time, I'd been thinking a lot about pain, how people kind of deal with pain and change in their lives. And I knew that I really wanted to explore it a little bit more in my work. And so this is my latest work, which is called Everything I Wish I Could Be. And when I opened this book, this is a self-help book. All of these images are photographs of self-help and motivational books. But when I opened this book, I looked at the contents page and suddenly realized that what I was looking at seemed to describe the emotional makeup of a person. It kind of told an unexpected or unintentional story. And I stopped looking at it as a book and started looking at it more as a portrait. So this image is from birth to death, and it has about 80 self-help books in it. And as I was buying books, I realized that there was a self-help book for literally every moment in a person's life, from relationship advice to turning 70. At one point, the strangest book I found was called Infidelity. It was from the 70s, and it turned out to be actually a how-to manual. It was a guide for wife swapping, or not wife swapping, swingers. But the image reads as a portrait of kind of a life cycle. So the image starts in the top left corner with birth, and then at the bottom image, it ends with death. So, but I really liked the idea that I could create kind of this portrait of a life created with all of the moments that, with books that were used to soothe all of the moments of pain and change in someone's life. This one always ends in death. This image is called One Day, and all of the titles in the image have increments in time in them. So on the left side, there's the first 5 minutes. There is Every Second Counts, the 60-minute marriage, the 2-minute lover, and the final hour. And all of the books that are in here, they all add up, when you add up all the titles, to 24 hours, as if it's all the moments in a person's day. The image is a little bit deceptive. You can never stack books in this way to form a perfect rectangle. This is what it actually looked like when I shot it. All of the images only really resolve from the perspective of the camera. So in this, the books are actually spread out about 6 feet, and hours are in the front, minutes are in the middle, and the seconds are in the back. Most of the images have to do with time in some way. This one is called Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow, and so all the titles actually have time in them. And one thing that I find interesting is that all of the books have kind of different philosophies. So they will often contradict each other. So here you have, today is a good day to die. Today I will not die. Living for today. I will live tomorrow. And then I think there's another one that's living for yesterday. And so when you read through the images, the narratives can often change. So in all my work, all the elements always existed. And it's me taking those elements and recombining them in a new way, hopefully to make you see something different. The art that I'm interested in will kind of make you see all the different elements in the world slightly in a new way. And for me personally, if you were to go outside and look at a teddy bear and think, what does that look like inside out? Or see one of these self-help book and think that it's just one part in a larger whole, then I would see it as a small, modest success. Thank you.